the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Happening right now at 10, covering the entire DMV, people across the DMV honoring our veterans today. We're highlighting specific veterans of our armed forces and keeping an eye out for events and closures near you. Plus, honoring victims of racial violence, officials in Montgomery County using today to remember those who lost their lives from lynching in the county. And Maryland officials celebrating the new proposed FBI headquarters in Greenbelt. Meanwhile, officials in the Commonwealth calling on the federal government to reconsider.
As we go into this evening, temperatures could dip down around freezing or below for some. We'll talk about tomorrow, Sunday's forecast, and their full 7-day forecast all coming up.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us for DC News Now at 10. I'm Michaela Newton in for Ben Dennis. All right, we're going to start off with a quick look at the forecast. Scott, what can you tell us tonight?
Well, like I just said, it's just going to be a little on the chilly side out there, Michaela, tonight. And right now, the city is sitting at a temperature of 49 degrees under clearer skies as we look at the Capitol here. But we do have a few clouds around, not terribly covering the sky, but still a few high, thin cirrus clouds in parts of the viewing area. Lows tonight are expected, even in the district, to drop down below 40 degrees. Annapolis and Lexington Park, you're probably going to be the lucky ones here, staying at 40 or 41, but most areas will be chilly enough, and in some places down to freezing or below here, Woodstock and Luray. So as far as the headlines, a dry and chilly night ahead, mainly sunny Sunday, and no rain until next weekend. The winter outlook, yes, we're going to be talking about that this hour. We'll talk about snowfall amounts that we think from the Weather Department we'll see this season.
All right, Scott Sumner with a check of the forecast. Thank you. Well, in the district today marks the 30th anniversary of the Vietnam Women's Memorial built on the National Mall in 1982. So it's the first in D.C. to exclusively recognize the women who served both in the military and as civilians. So the memorial was honored at a special ceremony earlier this morning. And people across the DMV took to the Korean War Veterans Memorial on the National Mall today. The memorial hosted its annual Veterans Day ceremony, and that event also included a wreath presentation in honor of fallen veterans of the war. Now, veterans who attended the event in person were honored as well. And now to Maryland, Montgomery County has taken another step to heal the wounds from its violent past. And people gathered in Rockville this afternoon to recognize two black men who were lynched well over 100 years ago. DC News Now's Dave Laval has the latest details.
These markers in front of the Montgomery County Council office building are not just for decorations. They also bring attention to some of the darkest chapters in the county's history.
John Diggs Dorsey.
A black man kidnapped from the jail that used to stand on this site July 27, 1880. A mob lynched him along Route 28. One of the markers recalls his story.
Mr. Cindy Randolph.
Another black man also kidnapped from the jail by a mob and then hung July 4, 1896, along present-day Hungerford Drive in Rockville. The other marker recounts what happened to him. Crowds gathered at the building for Saturday's dedication of the markers that honor the victims of racial violence. Among those on hand, Daryl Claggett.
I'm pretty much speechless to it. You know, we often have to recognize history where we've been, be it good or bad, and in this case, really bad, to find out how we can correct things and do better in the future.
No one was ever charged in either lynching. The Montgomery Commission on Remembrance and Reconciliation led the effort to get the markers put in place. The head of the county's Office of Human Rights calls them long overdue.
It was indeed a different time. However, my friends, the scars are evident yet today.
I think it's a good step to start. I mean, it's a baby step, but it's a major step.
But questions remain for many people.
How many of these instances we have not known about?
A similar marker sits in front of Poolesville Presbyterian Church. It pays tribute to George Peck, another black man lynched by a mob back in 1880. Organizers told us the next step is to get a monument built that honors all three men who were lynched. In Rockville, Dave Laval, DC News Now.
All right, Dave, thanks so much. Well, the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office is investigating a stabbing in Sterling, Virginia. Deputies say it happened around 10 p.m. in the parking lot of Dulles Town Center Mall. The victim told police he left the mall, and as he got into his car, two men wearing masks approached his car. He also says the two men opened the car door, pulled him out, and stabbed him multiple times before leaving the scene. And the man was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And in the district, police say a man is dead after being shot in Southeast D.C. this morning. Police say it happened around 3 o'clock earlier today on Stanton Road in Southeast, and officials say the man died at the scene. Police identified the victim as 38-year-old James Deal. Now to a national story with local implications. Top Maryland leaders are celebrating the new FBI headquarters set to be built in Greenbelt, while brushing off concerns raised by FBI Director Christopher Wray. Our Leonard N. Fleming has more on how top Virginia officials are now calling on Congress to order a redo.
We are thrilled that the FBI is coming to the state of Maryland.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore was joined by every top state elected official after General Services Administration chose Greenbelt, Maryland as the next home for the FBI.
This is going to bring over 7,500 jobs to the state of Maryland, will generate over $4 billion of economic activity.
But questions were raised by FBI Director Christopher Wray on the selection process by the GSA, saying it was flawed. That has been brushed off by Maryland leaders, including Senator Chris Van Hollen.
The decision that was made is a final decision. It is absolutely wrong of Director Chris Wray to impugn and question the character, the integrity, and the independence of the site selection administrator.
Wray alleges that the GSA official who once worked for WMATA had a conflict of interest in overruling a unanimous decision that Springfield, Virginia was the best site for the Bureau. Maryland Congressman Steny Hoyer says Maryland is moving forward.
An objective reading of all the facts led to the selection of the FBI headquarters at Greenbelt, Maryland, because it's best for the country, best for the FBI, and best for the people.
Leonard N. Fleming, DC News Now.
All right, well, the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs announced plans to light up the state and county buildings and landmarks in green in honor of Veterans Day. It's a part of Operation Greenlight, a campaign to show support for veterans and military families. So some participating buildings across Maryland include the Government House in Annapolis, the University of Maryland Medical System in Baltimore, and the M&T Bank Stadium, the home of the Ravens. So officials are also encouraging people across the state to change one light bulb in their home to a green one. And one U.S. Air Force veteran served her country in a different way through a lens. And on this Veterans Day, it's not just a time she remembers her service, it's also an anniversary to overcoming trauma while in service. Our Tosin Vakile sat down with her as she shared her story. Take a listen.
All right, let's get some sunlight in here. Yes. No, I don't feel like a leader, but I do feel like Wonder Woman. No, I'm being serious, though.
She may not have the symbol S on her chest, but Therese Garnier's story does show strength. Garnier, an Air Force veteran, says she's fourth-generation military in her family.
What made you want to serve? So my dad served in the Marine Corps, and so as I was living on a military base in Japan.
She joined the Air Force in a non-traditional way, providing information to service members and others.
And I found out that the military, the Air Force, has a broadcaster program. I started off as a radio show host.
But her time in the military isn't filled with all fond memories. Garnier said she was raped while in service, a memory she now is detailing out loud in her upcoming book.
So my memoir called No Longer Silent, it's coming out on Veterans Day, this Veterans Day. And the significance of that is this Veterans Day will be the 10-year anniversary of me surviving being raped in the military. I came forward and reported it. We went to court. He got kicked out of the military, but unfortunately, he did not have to register as a sex offender.
Garnier says detailing what she went through, especially on Veterans Day, gives her the power, something she wants other assault survivors who are dealing with trauma to do while turning their pain into purpose.
I'm not going to let that man control another day of my life. He already took a couple years from me after that incident happened, and I made up in my mind that I refused to let him have any more control over my life. And so that's why now on Veterans Day, once my book launches, I will have something to look forward to, because now I'm taking my pain and my struggle and turning it around to be able to help other people. You can take your power back.
She wants people to know taking that power back takes several steps, including counseling and creating space for peace.
That's my whole mindset. When in my house, I want to be at peace.
So when you think about where you are right now, what goes through your mind?
I just feel blessed. I feel grateful. I feel joyful. I feel like I'm at a position now where I have survived, I'm thriving, and now I have the opportunity to help others.
And part of that joy is highlighting other issues veterans face.
In May of 2022, I heard about a pageant that helps promote women who are homeless veterans and have children as well. That resonated with me. I know the VA has done a lot to try to help veterans get off the streets, but it still is an issue.
Despite the dark times, Garnier says there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
For me, that's been my whole life. Anytime I can pay it forward and make life better for someone else, that's what I aim to do, which is why I joined the military, which is why I became a reporter, which is why I'm doing what I do now.
For DC News Now, I'm Tosin Fakile.
And as the community honors Veterans Day, Metro is gearing up for a weekend filled with commuters. Buses will run on a supplemental Saturday schedule, meaning all buses that would normally run today will run in addition to select routes. As a reminder, shuttle buses will be replacing Blue and Silver Line services between Stadium Armory and Addison Road, and the Red Line will run single track between Medical Center and Grosvenor.